More live.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burrow, obviously one of our live streams. Um, Joining me today, as always, is Emily Hahn of Wikipedia / creative genius behind an upcoming comic. I don't know why I leaned
What
into
was that?
it. Like it was a dramatic pause and lean in for to get the sound. Comic.
Oh, are you doing
Yeah.
ASMR now?
Of course, that's going to be like our second thing if the whole creative thing doesn't pan out.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-oh. So basically what we're going to talk about today is the idea of creative cross-training. And as I've discovered, maybe that's a little bit more vague than I would like it to be. So the idea of cross-training, right, is used a lot in sports. Now, I know my little brother, for example, is in the comments today. And in sports, right, in running, just as an example, if you're always running and you find yourself always getting injured in a certain area, or you're not very good at bursts of speed at the end of the race or something like that, what you can do is maybe you would start doing biking or martial arts or swimming to strengthen those areas in which you're the weakest, so that basically you would become a better runner. Now, the idea of creative cross-training is to basically do the same things, although hopefully you're not finding yourself getting actually injured just by writing a couple pages down every day. If you are, we need to discuss your writing habits. But this has been used by sort of many different people, many different writers, many different artists and things like that. But it's also been used quite famously by some really big influential companies such as Apple and Google and things like that, who sort of hold on to this tenet as a way to not only boost the happiness of their workers, but to boost creativity, productivity, and things like that. So most famously, perhaps, sorry, as I duck out of screen, I'm roasting myself here with the heater. But sort of famously, Google has this idea of, hello, Nippon Culture Quest, by the way. Hello, Connor Hayward, that younger version of me. Google has this really famous 20% policy where basically 20% of the time their employees should be thinking about something other than what they're like mainly hired to do. And in doing that, basically to find the best way to make Google better, right? To find more creative ways, different ways to do their jobs better. And Steve Jobs, too, who came from this background where his father was a designer or something like that, really wanted to make everything beautiful. So he came to it with this aesthetic mindset, really, that helped him during the design of these things, right? This other discipline helping to improve the creation of the tech that so many of us use today. So ultimately, all of it ties into this idea of like the subconscious, right? If you have a problem you can't solve, if you have something you can't improve by basically overthinking it and overdoing it, you switch gears and you sort of leave it to your self-conscious, not your self-conscious, your subconscious a little bit, and it ties into subconscious problem solving and sort of support structure, improving of like your infrastructure and things like that to ultimately make you a better writer, a better artist, a better video maker, whatever the case may be. So to open the floor to Emily a little bit here, so it's not just me talking because nobody wants that. I thought we could sort of talk about what we think our weaknesses are in our, I guess what you could say our main craft or crafts are.
Our weaknesses. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, assuming you believe you have any.
Well, of course, but I didn't know this
Yeah.
was going to be a tell-all show.
Well, I mean, you don't have to tell everything, but just one or two will do.
Okay, so one of my big weaknesses that I recently sort of was fighting against and accepted was that I'm really bad at inking.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's more specific than you wanted, but
No, that's not at all.
So in the process of making my current comic, Kingdom Come, I wanted to start inking the pages by hand, and I hadn't done that in a really long time, like 7 years, something like that. And yeah, I'd never been very good at inking. And so I inked the first like 3 pages and scanned them, and the quality was so bad they're unusable. So I
Oh
have to
no.
just like go over them digitally now. Yeah.
Uh, God, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, people are commenting on how I've thrown you into the deep end with the sharks. By the way,
Yeah.
apologies. Apologies. So the inking thing, I mean, is it just a matter that you hadn't done it in such a long time, or is it just not something you ever had the skill set for?
I never really had any training in it.
Hmm.
I did clean up animation when I was in school, but that was with pencil. It was never with ink.
Sure.
Um, and I think oftentimes it's pretty psychological too, where I kind of sat down and was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to do this, and just sort of like chicken scratching and hoping that it would somehow end up looking good, and it just ended up a mess.
Sure. Well, I don't want to dive right into like possible solutions, of which I can't actually offer you any, but we'll talk about some theory. But yeah, so Emily's weakness, right, is her inking. And my main thing, of course, is writing. But mine, I think, right now is actually dialogue.
Okay.
But dialogue can't really be solved so much in the way in things we're gonna talk about today. So I don't even know why I mentioned it, probably just because I'm an idiot. But
No, be more confident than that.
I don't have that in me. I don't know if you know me at all. But so I guess one of the things I could talk about is hello, they might be Derek. Welcome. Is I'm really quite good, I think, at environmental descriptions. Like I could paint an image of somebody in somebody's head of pretty much any environment, I think. Not to be overly confident, but I'm pretty good at it. But
okay, here we go.
when it comes to people, though, right? I have this terrible tendency to really paint these overly vague or overly generic images of my characters when I'm describing them on the page, and of course that's not good. Of course, dialogue helps to set people apart, but character descriptions are really, really important too. And
well, some writers don't really include very much physical description. Is that what you
that's
mean?
true, but I don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, but even right, I think you can get away with like using it sparingly, but it needs to be effective.
Okay.
Right, of course, like I don't want to go on like a Tolkien-esque like description rant about every little detail of my characters, but even that those small little details, they tend to be a little too generic, I guess, right? So anyway, that's one of my many flaws.
Have you ever had the experience where you thought something you did wasn't good, and then you showed it to someone else and they actually pointed out that it was really good? Like, I don't mean the overall work, but I mean like that general thing that you were kind of self-conscious about, or you thought you did poorly.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, the environmental description thing was something that I always thought was flat or uninteresting, or kind of came across as like repetitive or something like that. But yeah, that was the kind of feedback I got on that when I was first starting out. And clearly I let that go to my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, but what about you? Have you had that sort of feedback with your inking or something else that you thought you weren't very good at?
Yeah, a few years ago I did a series of mini comics for Kingdom Come. It was actually for a challenge that happens during November for comic artists. It's like NaNoWriMo, but nano mongo. It's like manga in November.
Sure.
So I did that, and my comics, or one of my comics was about like kids, and another one had like a bunch of animals in it, and those are two things that I thought I was really bad at. And I kind of wrote a comment under it saying like, why did I choose to draw comics about kids and animals, like the two things that I can't draw? And then I got comments saying like, your animal drawing skills are so good, and da, da, da. So it's perspective, and I think we kind of, like you were saying, we're getting into our own heads about certain things that are just like our personal anxieties about, you know, what we might be good or not good at, and other people are going to perceive them as being better than what we think they are.
Oh, I don't think this is off topic, but do you think, are you precious about the way your animals come across, or the way your kids come across in particular? I mean, does that matter to you particularly?
In that case, yeah, because they were describing the story.
Sure. Okay.
I don't know. I think because drawing is visual, and like if you're reading something, that's visual too, obviously, but I think the process of drawing is kind of precious. I don't know. What are you driving at?
I don't know. I wonder if the things that you find to be most important are the things that you often worry are the weakest.
Mm-hmm.
This might be kind of a stretch as far as connecting the dots, but they say like if you want to know what people fear losing the most or what they care most about, right? You look at the pictures they take.
Mm-hmm.
Which I always thought was kind of this interesting idea, because some people just take pictures of nature, some people take selfies constantly. But so I wonder if to connect to that, if the things that we sort of focus on the most and the things we worry about the most aren't the things that maybe we sort of recognize that maybe we can be kind of good at those things, but so we sort of hyper focus on them. We worry that we're not as good as we think we are at them. And then that turns into us not thinking we're good at them at all.
Yeah. And logically, that would make sense that you would put a lot of pressure on yourself to make sure the most important parts of the story are the best, right?
Right, yeah. So here's a comment from my little brother here. Basically that even generic descriptions can be sort of good enough. Which maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Again, maybe the overthinking thing. No, right. No, I don't want to focus on the trouble too much, mostly because I'll overthink it and have to drink a lot later. But now, right, the whole idea of our stream, right, is this idea of creative cross-training, which we talked about right in the beginning. And it's been sort of interesting to see sort of the ideas on this topic from other people within writing, within drawing, within video making, and things like that. And there is this sort of tendency, which a lot of these people mention, that when we're worried about improving our writing, improving our drawing, improving our video making, to only read about those things, right? So it's only read and only engage with things that we think can directly improve it, which is sort of the exact opposite idea. And I think it was maybe Stephen King in On Writing, or like Anne Lamott and Bird by Bird. Hello, Himitsu, welcome. Who basically said, it's not good for you if you want to improve your writing just to sit down and read about writing all the time, right? Because then you're not writing. You're not doing really anything related to writing except reading, which of course has its place.
But you're not practicing.
Right. And it comes down to sort of like, there's this idea of like the creative muscle. And I think I agree with what a lot of people say about it, that we think the creative muscle is only tied to our writing ability. Like, I only have the muscle for prose, or I only have the muscle for whatever. But I guess the more becoming more popular idea is that creative muscle is more like general, right? So that as long as you practice on something like on learning to draw or learning to play an instrument. It's all the creative muscle, and it all sort of strengthens and supports those other disciplines. So I guess I would wonder what you think about that. Maybe that's tying back to what we sort of talked about before the stream too.
Yeah, so my idea when Charlie first sort of came up with this creative cross-training phrase was that people who are creative often do more than one thing. So when I worked in animation studios, a lot of people there, they did a lot of varied things. There's many people there who were actors. They were also in like acting troupes and stuff. There were tons of musicians. So yeah, I think people who are leading a creative life and they kind of have that mindset, they are capable and they're often interested in doing more than one thing. So that kind of got me thinking, well, I right now during the day am working on drawing, and then I'm also working on YouTube stuff and whatever else might come up. So it's kind of good because you will tire out that part of your brain that is focusing on writing, say, you know, like you might want to get up and take a break and do something else. And I think that kind of like keeps all the muscles working, all those different things fresh, rather than just working on drawing for like 12 hours a day.
Sure.
That's obviously going to tire you out.
Absolutely. I mean, how do you feel that? I mean, obviously you're not just writing your comic, right? I mean, like you said, you're also making videos, but you're also writing that comic. So how do you feel? Like, I mean, they're sort of inexorable, right? You're writing and you're drawing, but I wonder how you feel like they complement each other, like your ability to draw those things and your ability to also write them.
Mm-hmm. That's tough. I don't know. For me, writing the comic script and then drawing the actual pages is, it feels like the same thing, but at the same time it's different. Like I'll find when I'm actually drawing the page, I'll change little bits of the script, like some wording in the script, and the dialogue, and maybe how originally I broke up the pages even.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, we don't have to mine that particular tidbit at the moment, but yeah. Okay, well, that's yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask what you thought about the whole subject. Like, what do you do to creative cross-train?
Well, recently, I've started to stop thinking of myself so much as like one kind of writer, I guess. And so I've started to write more like little micro fictions or little bits of poetry and things like that, mostly because I feel like my pacing in longer work is a bit slow. And so, like, of course, pacing needs to be different in microfiction, needs to be different in novelettes and things like that to make it more of an interesting, readable story. So that's something I do, but that's also within kind of the same discipline. But yeah, other than that, I've started to really get more into video making, right? More sort of visual art, I guess. And I feel like I have seen this idea sort of play out in my ability to make more interesting set pieces, so to speak, when I'm actually going to write. Of course, things don't directly translate. Like I can't jump cut. Right? I can't jump cut from like a shot of a bridge to a shot of another part of the city completely and have it have the same effect in writing as it does in video. But sort of thinking about composition, right? I've never really thought visually, and this is something I think we talked about when you were, how should I say, you were giving me some polite input on how to improve my thumbnails on this channel, right? Like particularly like in aesthetic. Who is this person?
I don't know.
There's a random person joined the Join the person. Hang out. Apparently named Top. They're muted. Hello, ghost person.
I ejected them.
Well done.
I'm so terrified now.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
This is not weird person who would come in before and like dial Walmart. They would hop on their streams and anyway, but so I'm not good at static art, you know. I don't understand the composition, but it's interesting to sort of start thinking about my scenes and writing in more like a compositional way, like a visually compositional way. Like, okay, thinking more about where things are, I guess, as opposed to just maybe just putting what is going on? What is going on?
Hello, good looking. I love you.
Ew.
Can we like a password our stream or something?
I don't know.
What just happened? Was that person just like mumbling "I love you"?
I think so. To you, obviously.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Himitsu, I want to touch on your point here in just a second. But yeah, basically, to make things more like premeditated, I guess, in my writing, because I'm not a planner. I'm not a planner at all, and I guess that's something we can talk about here. But yeah, to touch on Himitsu's point before we move on here, I think there is the Burrow with special guests indeed.
Yeah, seriously.
Good Lord. But to touch on Himitsu's point here, basically, yeah, I think this is maybe like that problem of over review and being overcritical of your work. Like, at one point, do you put down the red pen? Like, at what point is it finished? At what point is it good enough? And yeah, eventually you do sort of get into that spiral.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, like how do you know when to stop editing?
Yeah, I mean, because eventually you go from like, okay, you've carved something out of a piece of wood, and you're just hacking the shit out of it, and it turns into like, it's useless, right? Like, the art is knowing when to leave the rough parts too, I guess.
Yeah.
Not to say I know, but yeah.
Yeah, you guys should read Big Magic.
Yeah, Emily's been plugging this book. I'm starting to wonder if she's not getting paid under the table for it.
I should be. It's like my Bible now, God.
Good Lord. I have it downloaded. I haven't touched it yet, though, but...
Oh, you really need to read it.
I know, so you've said on many occasions.
I'm going to keep saying it until you freaking read it.
And yeah, it's true, right? We're always going to be more critical of our stuff, but it is because, like you said, I mean, the drawing is precious, the writing is precious. Right? It is. You are very effectively like might as well pull off a nipple, and that's a weird way to put it, but
whoa, yeah, why that?
it's like a piece of your body, a particularly sensitive piece of your body, so thereby
God.
Bushes of the movies. Woo.
Get out of here, David. God.
How is this even happening? How do they have
I don't know. It's like a private link. I don't understand.
All right, we need to check. All right, apologies, people here, for technical difficulties.
I don't apologize.
Indeed. Emily's pulling in all the weirdos.
I don't know. Is it because I'm like the Burrow account in here, so I did something wrong? I don't understand.
I don't think so. You just accessed it through like the YouTube thing, right? So all right, let's get back on track here. Now the problem is, I think that somebody has like synced our live stream to like a hashtag, and there's like this whole thing on Twitter. So I wonder if that hasn't made like our link live somehow. Anyway, forging ahead. Always take off on the phone writing. All right, good. Glad I'm not alone in my strange self-harm. Put it back on though. Mel, can you not mess with the metaphor? All right, so let's actually talk about some of the like the specifics, right? The specifics of how creative cross-training. By the way, the phrase I did not make up.
Oh, okay.
It's been out there for a while on the internet. Emily, learn to read.
I read the internet every day, and I've never seen this phrase before.
Every day. Well, it's out there. It's out there.
Okay, I guess I should have done some Googling.
For serious. But basically, right, so let's dive into some of these more specific things. Now, the really big thing that is like at the head of all this is something we've kind of touched on already, is this idea of a keystone habit. This term comes from Charles Duhigg's Power of Habit. Sounds like a self-help book I'm never going to read. But yeah, this idea that you need to just first develop the habit first and foremost is the important thing of being creative, no matter what, once every day for however long you want to do it. That's the most important thing, right? I've talked about in like a very recent video about how maybe writing every day in my particular instance is actually kind of damaging.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so if you can first get down that first important thing, and then you get to the cross training. So first do shit and then do cross training shit is the idea, right? Now, Emily's giving me the face. All right, like where is he going? Right. So after you get that point, right, you should start thinking about again these weaknesses. Yes, I have a cussy bad boy mouth. This is why I had Emily share her many flaws with us earlier, and why I gave you the single flaw that I have, is because there you can sort of look at these things and pinpoint, okay, well, what are some things outside your discipline that you can do? Now, the one I talked about just a second ago with video making was sort of giving myself this ability to see things in a more visual, kind of premeditated, structured way. Because, of course, in video, I can't just sort of like shoot as I go, particularly when I'm shooting B-roll, right? Like I can't just be like, okay, I'm gonna go over here and go over here and go over here. It's not good for the composition of the video. And really what that comes down to is structure, right? I'm not a planner in my writing. I mean, I plan out my characters, but I don't really plan my chapters, the composition of the chapters. I just know that I have point A and point B, and how I get there really just sort of depends on where my fingers take me, I guess. But so what you can do, right, maybe to come and accept that about yourself a little bit, or if you're the complete opposite kind of person where you write things that are too structured to the point where you write yourself into a corner when the characters sort of very organically want to take you someplace else, is paint, particularly with watercolors. And this is something this is not my experience. This is me pulling from Abby J. Reed's website. She is a writer with a rather popular blog. And basically she suggests that painting, particularly in watercolors, teaches you that sometimes things are just supposed to go where they're supposed to go, and not really like this, your assumed narrative or your assumed story flow, right? And water, the nature of water, just sort of once it's down on the page, it still moves and things like that. So maybe that can help you get out of this idea of writing too much to a structure. And I've already shared with you my idea of how you can cross-train to write to more of a structure. So Emily, what do you think? You creative writer type, artist type?
Well, I was just going to say that particular type of paint, a lot of happy mistakes happen that we call, where watercolor has this effect where on its own it will add this sort of look of like detail and shading, and like it just looks kind of fancy, and you don't really have to do that much to it. You just kind of like put the brush on the paper where you want it to go. So I think that kind of like would help you like let go of that kind of like chokehold you would have on controlling like what you're creating, and just kind of like, you know, let go and let the happy mistakes happen.
Sure. So I mean, you only have your perspective, of course, but do you feel like that's something that you're able to do really easily as someone who creates things both in a visual way and in a written way? Are you able to let things go?
Yeah, for sure. I've never been like super anal or dramatic about those types of things. I know when we did our NaNoWriMo stream that I was the only one who had like done an outline.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
It's never set in stone, and I don't know, I kind of like the feeling when I'm it's and I think that's the whole part of,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
sorry.
you. We're just experiencing some stream turbulence.
Oh,
So if you
are
could,
you okay now?
am I okay?
Yeah.
As if I'm the problem. How dare you? No, but if you could, sorry, could you say what you just said again? I don't know if I'm the only person who didn't hear you, but make it sound original, like you've never said it before.
Well, okay, I can't even remember what I said, so. Where did you? Okay. I think I was saying that I've never really had a problem where I feel like I'm being super restrictive with whatever I'm creating. Like even though I had an outline and stuff, it was kind of like very open and it wasn't set in stone. And I don't know, I've never been really overly dramatic. And I think I was saying that I really like that feeling of when you sit down to write or draw, that it's kind of just like flowing out of you and it's not happening like a math equation. It's kind of just like magically making itself.
Now, what about as that applies to characters? I mean, what if you, in a very vague way, what if you have like a definite idea for your character and then the story sort of brings them to a completely unexpected or even sort of critical, like a bad place for them? Are you going to allow that, or are you going to force their hand a little bit?
I definitely allow it, and if you don't like it later, you can change it. It's not like the end of the world, and if it ends up going to that place, then maybe kind of like take a step away from it and look at why it ended up going to that place that you didn't intend it to go to, or and this is another reason why you should read Big Magic, because the author kind of explores this idea that the universe, which I don't necessarily subscribe to, but it's kind of interesting to think about, that the universe kind of has this, is kind of like a sentient being, and like ideas are their own sentient beings, and you're just kind of like the conduit for those ideas to flow out through.
Kind of like the idea of the muse, right? You're just sort of the vessel.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So, sorry, I really wanted to crack a joke at your expense about Big Magic, but I think I definitely agree with that to an extent. Like that idea of about you're just sort of, like you said, you are just the conduit. But if that's the case, why can't it just come out cleanly? Like bam, lightning strike, there it is. Don't have to go through and do it.
Probably because.
Uh-oh. Turbulence. Oh no. Do a song and a dance. Keep things interesting till Emily comes back. Okay, there she is. Hello. Oh no. Caved in. Hey, I see your face.
Nothing is happening on my end. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Maybe it's just Japan not being terrible. I don't know. If it would be worth anything, then we wouldn't learn through it. No, that's true. So he needs to someone do a magic trick. Yeah, no, I think that's true. Like maybe if it did come out just sort of in that sort of perfect way that it's supposed to, or perfectly imperfect, probably the better way to put it, then there would be nothing. It wouldn't be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. All right, so that's one thing, right? We talked about like the watercolors, and then through experience, I'm just sort of spitting out things that I've read. Through experience, sort of corroborating that a little bit, I guess. But onto something else. Sort of in the same thing, right? Like I talked about the idea of physical character descriptions and being able to sort of see people as realistic people, right? Realistic people, as opposed to, like, I don't know, in my head, like sometimes when I think about what a character looks like, I almost see like those screens and like video games, like Oblivion or something like that, where you're clicking the arrow and the face changes, and then you click another arrow and it changes again, and the color changes a little bit, but ultimately they all sort of look the same. Which of course is not a very creative way to do it, because you're just sort of picking from templates.
Mm-hmm.
So what's suggested, actually, from a couple of different sources I was reading as I was doing some research on the topic, was to basically, I mean, just go out and people watch, right? Now you hear this all the time for writing.
Mm-hmm.
To go out and just listen to people and write down their dialogue, and this is something I've done before because my dialogue is George Lucas-esque in its grandeur. But yeah, to go out and people watch and try and draw their faces as how the light hits them, and like how the wrinkles sit on one side of their face or something like that. And really, again, for me, it's all about improving like the visual things, because I just don't have that muscle well developed at all. But of course, I mean, at least from your last art history video, right? I mean, that's something clearly you've done like a lot.
Yeah, that was part of my education in animation, is that it was part of our sketchbook assignment to draw people that we saw on buses and out and about. And it was really just like part of the teacher's lessons to be like observe people, observe life, and go from there.
Sure. Now I think we could sort of, I could regurgitate like things that you can find on the internet, and I'll link these in the description below for anybody who wants to read up on them later. But I guess I would sort of like to again turn the tables here and ask Emily, what are some of the things she would suggest as someone who has this more visual background to people who are just starting to make videos, or people who are just starting to draw, or people who are just starting even to write? Like, what are some of the things they should think about visually? And I know that's like casting a super wide net.
Mm-hmm.
But as for like even talking about thumbnails, like composition, right? What are the things people should be thinking about in composition, whether that's in a thumbnail or something text-based, to make it more visually appealing?
Okay, well, I don't know if you want me to go into like specific techniques, or if you want me to do like some philosophical like.
Well, you could start out with one and then lead into the other, I guess, right?
You're really demanding a lot of me in this stream, but okay. So pretty much the first rule of composition that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of already, if you've taken like any kind of drawing or photography or anything like that, visual composition, is the rule of thirds. So what you're supposed to do is divide your little screen or thumbnail or whatever into thirds, so going horizontally and vertically. And basically where you place your point of focus within the composition is going to affect the feeling and the look and mood and like everything going on in the scene that you're photographing or drawing. So I'm guessing Nippon Culture Quest knows about that already. Photographs are really beautiful. But imagine if you took a photo of like a lamppost and you centered the lamppost right in the middle of your lens. And then you took a photo where you had shifted your camera over and the lamppost is now to the right and it's like almost in the corner. So kind of like the feeling, not that a lamppost can convey that much feeling, but that the overall like look and like what that image is saying is going to be different. So something that's dead centered is like very dramatic. Sometimes films like that. And they're who like they really like putting stuff dead center. I think Fury Road was kind of like that. There was a lot of like dead center shots. So yeah, that's the first rule of composition.
What about? No, that's really interesting. That's something I have, at least, I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Okay, well now you're gonna notice it whenever you watch movies. So.
Sure. So there must be.
welcome.
I mean, so do you think about that constantly when you write or when you watch things? No.
It's so bad.
Alas. All right. Well, that's really good to know particularly for video makers out there, right? Of course, composition. I wonder from a writing perspective what you could apply from that idea. If anything, I guess. Like, of course, you don't literally frame things right like that when you write them, but I wonder if there's not something to be learned there, something to think about.
Yeah. Well, you could probably translate it to like paragraph size. So like a lot of the times I'll see writers doing like something really dramatic will be like on the next paragraph and it's only like a 3-word sentence or something, like then she died or something.
Right,
you know?
Punctuation. Right. Indeed. Okay, now I guess since you were good enough to go, I should have a go at this and offer my terrible advice. Don't you tell me what to do. Let's think about, okay, so what can writing convey to the Now, I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know what it can give to people who focus more on so-called static art. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but non-movie talkie pictures. You know, but from a visual perspective, right? One thing you've already touched on, and that is sort of this idea of how and when to cut things. I think, and I'm like a really bad criminal in this sense too, because I do this constantly, but YouTube has brought about this age of, you see that something is in place A, and then in the next second it's in place C, right? And you have no idea how it got from A to B to C. And while it's not really like that important if you're just doing general vlogging, right? A lot of times if you're going to do like these more narrative-based vlogs and stuff like that, it's incredibly jarring. And I think that's something like having like a background in writing or reading even can sort of get you out of the habit of doing if you do want to do these more story-based sort of vlogs, is that you have to show a lot of times that connection. So for example, to give you like a really stupid example that we'll come up with here on the spot, Emily is walking a dog, and then our next scene, the dog is eating a man's face. I don't know why your dog attacked the man, but right, there's not that connection, right? And maybe now you can use this idea of like this sort of this nonlinear storytelling, right? If you're going to fill in those holes later, but if we're talking about vlog making, a lot of times nobody's bothering to fill in those holes. So then you're left with this question of like, all right, well, why the hell was Emily's insane dog munching on that guy's nose? Like, why did that happen? It's a really stupid example, of course, but it leaves this really big space, which makes for this sort of unsatisfactory viewing and entertainment and narrative experience that you really need to think about, I think. And to sort of give one of our YouTuber friends, well, he's one of my YouTuber friends anyway, but Dances with Cranes, who is a a vlogger based here in Japan, out Kyoto way. He's really, really big on not doing jump cuts and things like this for exactly this reason, because it's a lot more satisfying from a storytelling perspective for you to have that beat, to understand, like, all right, that fat-faced jerk like tried to steal Emily's purse, so that's why the dog is now chewing on his jowls, kind of thing. Right, so I would think, if anything, writing can impart that sort of narrative structure to the often sort of spastic world of 4-minute video making, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's kind of interesting too, like how you were saying before, how, what, did you see my tweet?
Did I really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm such an asshole. For the record, before we go ahead with our stream, you should all know that the reason why these pervs were jumping into our stream was because instead of tweeting the link for the live stream, I was in fact tweeting the Hangout link that Emily and I are using to do this and talk to each other.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I am such an idiot. Oh my god. All right, well, anyway. I feel like such a jerk. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and, well, I guess we're nearing the end, so maybe it doesn't matter so much right now, but anyway, just to make sure nobody else is jumping in to be super creeps.
Yeah, just
so right. So we've talked about that. We've talked about also that other that. So is there anything else, Emily, that you would like to offer up on this topic before we sort of wind it down and get into the question phase? Well, Connor, shut your face. Of this game.
Well, I was just going to say, what was I saying before that? Oh, you were saying that you were learning that you could do jump cuts in your videos, but that didn't work in your stories in fiction writing. And
Right.
I think learning what not to do through doing like other creative is just as valuable as.
So I think what Emily is saying, now that she's off in the ether again for a moment, is that you basically that you learn the rules, right? You learn the rules first so that you can break them in a way that is sort of like artistically satisfying, narratively satisfying even, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Am I
good.
back now?
You are back indeed.
Okay.
Shining with your golden halo of head fur. It's not the worst live show. It's dynamic. Things keep happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting.
Never a dull moment over here.
Indeed. Indeed. But yeah, and so I guess, Emily, this is something Emily mentioned before because I did not bother to tell her what the hell I meant by creative cross-training when we were setting up the stream, was that, you know, a lot of creative people do many, many different creative things. Like there's very few people who, well, I don't know if I can say that, but a lot of people, right? They write and they play music. They make YouTube videos reviewing J-pop, and they also make animated tentacle porn in their spare time. So yeah, like basically just to say a lot of different disciplines, and it's probably not just for this reason, right? But I'm sure that has to maybe figure into it a little bit, or maybe people just like doing those things because they hate having time for themselves.
I've never made tentacle porn, just for the record.
Fair enough. I wasn't throwing shade at you. I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, guys, on that note, unless Emily has something else to add, I think we should open the floor to questions, comments, concerns, queries that we can help ameliorate.
I want to know why you tweeted that link.
Because I'm an idiot. There's no long-winded explanation for it. That's it. God.
Can I just make a note of how Canadian it was? And I was like, I think it's my fault because you know, I'm in the Burrow seat tonight, so I did something to make
And how American it was for me to let you take the fall for my idiocy.
it's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, why are you so?
Bernie
Oh,
on
buddy.
Twitter saying you had one job, Charlie.
Thank you. I deserve it.
Connor, you know, I stalked you on Twitter earlier today, and you guys look startlingly alike. So maybe you should hold back on the shade.
Like, we make the joke all the time that I'm like the version of him that got stung by like a lot of bees in like an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just to keep this on track before Emily throws us completely off the rails with her insanity, let's yeah, if you guys have anything you'd like to put in about creative cross-training, if you'd like to share what you do to sort of strengthen your weaknesses or whatever, please let us know in the comments now. Otherwise, we're shutting this shizzle down.
Well, if you shut up, Nippon Culture Quest has a question. She said, writing in first person, what do you guys think? I always struggle with it.
What is your response? I have one, but it's kind of bam.
Well, to be honest, I started writing my NaNoWriMo story in first person, and then like 2 chapters in, I was like, this sounds horrible. I'm changing it to third person. And I think there's some kind of like writing stigma or like something going on in like the writers community that first person is a little amateurish, and it's kind of like in the young adult genre and nowhere else. That's my feeling on it anyway. But I don't hate it. I mean, it has to be done well, and there's kind of like, if I'm reading something done in first person, then I want to know what that character is thinking at all times. Like, I don't see the point when I read like a young adult novel when it's told in first person and it's basically just like the main character dictating like everything that's happening around them.
Right, like kind of like first person omniscient type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it needs a really good reason why you're writing in first person. Like, I think 9 times out of 10, at least in creative fiction, you're better off writing in third person. Not necessarily because it comes across to me as amateurish or anything like that. It just makes a lot more sense to me. Like, okay, if this is first person, like, I guess I never really understood the first person omniscient kind of point of view where, okay, we're in this person's head, but he knows what the other person is thinking. And of course, that's a failing of writing. He shouldn't know what the other person is thinking. It should be about showing. And then in creative nonfiction, I think writing in first person, a lot of the time, it doesn't have much of a place. I think it has too much of a place currently in creative nonfiction, because it ends up drawing these stories that should be about the experience or about somebody you're writing about. It ends up making them this super internalized thing, and it tends to turn them more into blog posts than it does like a piece of journalism, I think. Which, number one, the most annoying thing people do when they write in first person creative nonfiction is they say, in this writer's opinion, or for this writer, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. But again, it has its place and it can be done well in both mediums, I think. But yeah. To answer that.
Any other questions or comments?
Indeed. Emily's dying to get out of here, you guys. She can't take it anymore.
It's been a rough night.
Oh, God. Right. Well, okay, before we have too long of a stretch of dead air, just want to thank you guys, as always, for coming to live streams, for the support. Please, of course, check out our other videos. Emily just put out a new...
Now you're cutting out.
Yesterday. Likely. likely.
I did not hear anything you just said.
Okay, well let's try again. So yeah, thank you as always for coming to these live streams. Really appreciate the support, the comments, the feedback, all that stuff. Please check out our non-live videos. Emily just put out a new one yesterday on her art history. I'll have a new one out tomorrow about writing, of course. And yeah, Emily, do you have anything else to sign us out with? When are you
Well, Connor says, when are you sending me presents? So.
Oh, Connor, I thought that was NCQ. She's getting nothing. Connor, give it time. Your birthday's coming soon. Not the place or the time for this. All right, so thanks, guys, as always, for watching. And Emily is going to be going to, well, another place. So we probably won't have a live stream for a little while.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Maybe we can do a special episode.
Together, actually together. Yeah, that's a good idea. Stay tuned for that. As always, you guys can follow us on Twitter. Check out our main YouTube channels, which you can find down in the comments below. And yeah, we'll see you all very soon indeed.
Wait, I have one more thing to say.
Okay, well, you have the button, so it's all you.
Oh, okay. We're at 99 subscribers right now. And I'm sure everyone watching has already subscribed, but if you haven't, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we will celebrate having 100 subscribers on this live stream, which I was hoping was going to happen, but alas.
Yes. Well, Connor, for example, I know you have another account, so if you could, I mean, it's kind of ethically dubious.
No, it's fake.
Buying subs. Bam, 100th. Yeah. Is it true? No, I still see 99. Anyway, all right. Emily's drawing this out. We need to end it. So thank you guys as always. And yeah, see you next time.
Bye.